Does Koraidon torment you? Does it keep you up at night, making you wonder if it's going to be there, haunting your dreams, giving you nightmares of its Tera Fire boosted Flare Blitz in the sun? Probably not, because you're probably normal, and that might just be a me problem, but I kind of wish that I had thought about this back in Regulation G, because I think I thought of something that might be a good way of getting around it, and I kind of touched on it just recently in one of my battle videos, but that might be flashfire. And the reason why is because a lot of Koraidon typically like to run fire type attacks, obviously because of the sun and Tera Fire. Flare Blitz just does so much damage, Flame Charge gives it speed, and then it typically runs Protect plus a fighting type move of choice, whether it's close combat or Collison Course. But here's the idea here. And if we jump into Peakalytics here, you can see, like, typically right now, as far as the data goes, unless you're getting an outlier, you're usually seeing Flare Blitz, Protect, Flame Charge, in close combat, or Collison Course, and then, yeah. As far as the percentages go on that, it kind of drops from Flare Blitz at being 99.68% to close combat at 56%, and Collison Course at 43%. And then from there, it drops down to any other move at 12%. So, you know, it might not be too shabby to assume you're going to run into a Koraidon running Flare Blitz, Flame Charge, Protect, and its fighting type move a choice, and Flashfire might help you get around that. Now, it's not going to do you any favors dealing with fighting type attacks, but hear me out. Tera Ghost. I know, shocker, a Flashfire Ghost type Pokemon, or rather a Pokemon with Flashfire that became a Ghost type, or just a natural Ghost type to begin with. It might help get around Koraidon. Maybe. I don't know. There's always variables in Pokemon, so yeah, I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about that just briefly. So what kind of kickstarted this was actually Heatran, and I've talked about Heatran before, and I actually tried to run it with my Mewtwo team, and while I didn't come to any matches in that Mewtwo team video, I got thinking about it. Like, Flashfire will negate the fire type attacks, Tera Ghost naturally provides an immunity to fighting type attacks, and so a wonderful idea kind of popped to mind. Heatran's got a base 130 special attack, and with its speed stat, it can kind of play in and out of Trick Room, which Koraidon likes to run things fast, but Heatran kind of can just say, nah, I'm going to go play with the Trick Room team and just get Trick Room up, and then now Heatran's faster than Koraidon, and the speed dynamic is inverted. Now, obviously, Heatran currently, without its Terastallization, is 4 times weak to ground-type attacks. It's also weak to fighting-type attacks, so in theory, Koraidon could give it a hard time, and it might torment the poor little Heatran here. But if Heatran goes Tera Ghost, well, now things might get spicy. Now, I wish I had thought of this back in Regulation G when there was only one restricted allowed, because Koraidon likes to partner up with Lunala and Shadow Rider, and both of those Pokemon do like Ghost-type Pokemon to do damage to. Now, they have to Terastallize themselves, but they don't have to really worry about that 4 times super effective damage once they have Terastallized. And then their stab moves, whether it be Astral Barrage or Moongeist Beam, can just punish Ghost types. Now, that could be a slight problem for Heatran, but the idea here is Heatran's got some good special defense. You could play around with an Assault Vest and go from there. Like, maybe you decide that you're going to run, like, a modest or calm-natured Heatran. Maybe run some good special attack investment right here. Maybe go up to, let's see, we'll do 156 so that we get that extra point right there on our special attack. Maybe it's like something like 100 into this. We'll do 108 so we get up to 140. And then maybe the rest of it's like HP right there. So we hypothetically have a bulky Heatran right here on the specially defensive side. And maybe what we see as far as some moves, maybe we see Heat Wave, Earth Power. And the Earth Power here is really important because Koraidon does like to go for that Tera Fire, so now you can punish it with that Earth Power, and because we're talking about Tera Ghost, we'll go Tera Blast right here on a Assault Vest set. I mean, obviously, you can't run any status moves. And if we just punch this over into a damage calc right here with a Koraidon that's running the Glass Cannon Reg I set that populates into the damage calculator right here, we see 196 EVs into the attack, giving it a 198 plus an Adamant Nature, or a Calcum Pulse is active with the Sun. We see a Life Orb. Close combat here obliterates that Heatran. It does 222%. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like that. I really don't like the idea of taking that damage, but as soon as we hit Tera Ghost, ta-da, there's that. And now let's just kind of punch in some of those numbers right here. So we said 244 for the HP. We got the Modest Nature, and just to confirm, I had 156 and 108. So 108, 156. We throw an Assault Vest there. So now Heatran is not taking any damage. If the Koraidon is Tera Fire, well, Earth Power is going to jump from a minimum of 28.4% to 56.9%. So that's a little over half. It's a 2-shot. If any Pokemon that likes to run next to Koraidon that could give a Ghost type a hard time, like say maybe Chen Pao, Fluttermane, Lunala, Shadow Rider, if they're all gone, Heatran's in a pretty safe position to go Tera Ghost and just do some big damage. Now, obviously, you need to build your team and be very careful with it because Heatran's kind of relying on its Tera to do some work, but I mean, there's some pretty good hypotheticals right there for why Heatran works for shutting down Koraidon. And the nice thing here too is the Assault Vest is giving it a special defense boost. If we were to look into something like, say, Lunala, and we'll go with the... We'll do this bulky support one right here. So, right now, Moongeist Beam is doing 58% minimum to a super effective Heatran. Moonblast is doing 17 if we're not terrestrialized. Moongeist Beam, at best, is doing 32.4%, which is relatively nice for Heatran. And if we punch in Tera Blast, because I didn't have that on here at first, if we punch in the Tera Blast, and we go into Tera Ghost, well, we're doing 56% minimum while Shadow Shield is intact. If we just play with the numbers a little bit, and we drop this 100% down to 99, just so Shadow Shield is broken, Tera Blast is a guaranteed knockout onto a non-terrestrialized Lunala, which is awesome. And you know what else is awesome? Lunala likes to run Tera Fairy. Well, how much is Flash Cannon going to do? Flash Cannon is going to do over half minimum. It's going to do 57.6, going up to 68%. So that's relatively nice. And then if we just want to compare, we'll see what Miraidon with the Assault Vest set is like. I'm not assuming Heatran's living against the specs, but I mean, yeah, I mean, Heatran is kind of in a bad position against Miraidon, but you throw up a light screen. Well, now Miraidon's not doing that much damage to you, even with the terrain up. If you remove the terrain, and maybe you've got a Rillaboom, well, now Miraidon's not doing much damage to Heatran with that Assault Vest. So, you know, there's some utility right there. And plus, you can do 30 to 36% to an Assault Vest of Miraidon, which, I mean, Miraidon is pretty darn bulky that way. So, like, yeah, just looking at this set that populated, like, max HP investment, an extra point into special defense. Yeah, Heatran is not appreciating how bulky that thing is, but I mean, if you get light screen and get the terrain gone, like, you're in an okay position. If you don't have light screen, like, Miraidon's only doing 27% with the Electro Drift when it's not terrestrialized, and only jumping up to 43% maximum. So that's not too shabby. And then one other Pokemon to just take a quick look at is Shadow Rider. So we do something like this with the Glass Cannon Shadow Rider. Astral Barrage is only going to be doing 26% right there to an Assault Vested Heatran. So the Assault Vested Heatran's in a nice position. Now, if Assault Vested Heatran is unfortunately terastallized into a Ghost type, it can live in an Astral Barrage right there. It can live that attack, so that's handy. And plus, Tera Blast is, yeah. Tera Blast is going maximum overkill right there with that 159 to 190. So that might not be too shabby right there for an Assault Vested Heatran to keep in mind. And then if you run Tera Ghost, well, I mean, at max, you're doing 95%. If you get a lucky crit, well, that's an Octo Shadow Rider right there. So, yeah, if they went Tera Fairy and took a Flash Cannon, same idea, 79.5 to 95.4. So, that's nice. That is really nice when you think about it. Like, Miraidon, or not so much Miraidon, Lunala, Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Fluttermane, they're pretty big things that like to show up with Koraidon, and even Chien-Pao, which Chien-Pao doesn't have the highest special defense, so really, if you have some fake out support, or even just some screen support, or maybe redirection, Heatran can take care of that relatively nicely at the end of the day. So that was kind of something I was just thinking that might be spicy for Heatran, and some other Flashfire Pokemon that I think might be spicy as well could actually be Ceruledge, and then that way too, you're naturally a Ghost type, you're naturally a Fire type, you would benefit from Sun that Koraidon would be setting. You have a little bit of redirection support, you might be able to play around with that, especially if there's no Dragon type coverage move on the opposing Koraidon. Chandelure is another Pokemon that gets Flash Fire, and Chandelure actually has a higher special attack stat than Heatran right here, and now you can open up your Tera to something else, and then that way too, you can maybe even consider running Tera Dark, ironically, if you get the Koraidon off the field, and you can do some pretty big damage right there with Chandelure. Chandelure could be spicy, and then Armorouge. Armorouge could be nice here too as well, especially if you have a faster Armorouge, or even just an Armorouge that can land a reliable Expanding Force. Maybe something like, say, a Life Orb right here, and then you pair it with male Indeedee. And then this way too, maybe you're running a very fast male Indeedee with max speed investment, which max speed investment Indeedee wouldn't outspeed Koraidon, but that's when you can kind of start messing around with Choice Scarf numbers right there. 161 with a 50% boost from a Choice Scarf. That could outspeed it. The Indeedee itself could go for Expanding Force. It could potentially go for a Tera Blast and maybe have like Tera Ground. And then that way, if the Koraidon goes Tera Fire, well, now you can go Tera Ground and have a Tera Blast that's not being weakened by the sun if you had gone Tera Water. Or, you know, maybe you just have After You. After You could be spicy, especially like, and that's kind of where I was getting at this with the Indeedee and the Armorouge. Maybe the Armorouge is the one doing all the damage. Maybe you've got something that's heavily invested into special attack with, say, a Modest Nature. Maybe it's a slower Mon because it's a Trick Room Mon. And maybe that Indeedee just goes for the Expanding Force, or not the Expanding Force, sorry, the After You, so that the Armorouge can go for the Expanding Force, and then it's just a good time. Like, maybe, hypothetically, you have something like this. Maybe your Armorouge has Armor Cannon, and maybe Protect. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Indeedee Armorouge probably shouldn't be underestimated. And, you know, maybe the Indeedee is Tera Ghost, so that it can hit Calyrex Shadow Rider for massive damage with a Tera Blast. I don't know. But, yeah, I was thinking some Flashfire Pokemon, Armorouge, Chandelure, Ceruledge, Heatran. They could be a little bit spicy, and, you know, they might help deal with getting rid of Koraidon if Koraidon is giving you some trouble. Now, alternatively, for those of you who like to run Koraidon, it might be a good idea to not become wallable by Flashfire Ghost Pokemon. Yeah, just some food for thought. Anyways, just a quick little discussion video. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and I will see you there. See you later.